you know, if that's going to be on a gentleman, that's going to look quite feminine. So what is it that gives that more masculinity and longer hair? For me, I think it's more of that texture, raw feeling, that lived-in feeling that gives that more masculinity within longer hair. So with a layering process that I'll show you today, is giving that more movement, but also giving more masculinity with the shapes that we're using. So we're using fundamental shapes of a square shape and a triangular shape. Okay, so actually let's get our model over here, Joshua. Yo, Josh. So Josh has, similar to my hair, and we're going to do more of my haircut, but with this technique, you can actually use on a much longer hairstyle, and I'll show you, I'll notify you the benefits with that. So you can go longer with this haircut that I'm going to give you today. So how to create it, what gives that masculinity within the long style? Well, what we're going to do, we're going to give more of a square shape. This is going to give more weight and length within areas of the head. So by explaining this, so if we had a basketball, and we placed it within a box, a square box, nice and snug, and we've got loads of sand, and we filled it in, where would the sand go? It would go directly within the corners. Okay, so that's what we want to do. Just like the basketball, the head is round, so we're working on a round surface. We want to create more of a square shape, so we're giving that more weight and length in the corners of the shape. Can you see that? So giving that more length and weight in these areas, it's going to give more masculinity. If we're going to go more round, then perhaps it's going to complement the head shape, hug the head, especially towards the top, and maybe create a little bit of expansion, or you know, it could look more feminine. So that's one of the reasons. Also square vertically, when we're cutting vertically, which I'm going to start off with, is creating more length at the top, more length at the bottom, but less length within the middle. So it's giving more of a leaner shape. That's what layering tends to do. It gives more of a leaner shape, entices movement within the hair. Now, for the mapping system, so thinking about the zones, I've sectioned them all out of the way, so I'm organised with what I'm going to do, and to create balance within the haircut. So I've isolated the back, all the hair that wants, by looking at the root, that wants to come back, and we followed this down, right down to just past the mastroid bone. So this is behind the ear, this bone, and we stop right at the hairline at the bottom of the nape here, and we followed that on the opposite side. So we're going to create that square shape from the back first. The density is changing in this corner, so it doesn't matter so much of the perimeter shape, because we're going to have it swept back, and I'll explain that later. But this is our transition for creating that more square corner within this area. My mask keeps coming off. There we go. So first of all, I'm going to start off with creating my vertical section straight through the middle. Now every time I section, I place my finger on the end of the comb. This is going to create that pressure onto the scalp to make sure it's nice and clean. I use this finger, I use my thumb. I use my thumb when I want to go more vertically down, because my finger, my wrist is out, my elbow is slightly out, my thumb, my wrist is in, my elbow is tucked in. It's more of that pivot straight up and down. So it gives it that more clean motion for a vertical section. So straight down. We're going to keep the hair nice and wet at all times, to make sure that, you know, the sections stay quite nice and neat. Now the technique, we're going to stand on the side. We're going to place our comb within our section, and just about to place it in, then our fingers go in straight away. We're stepping on the side, and as we pull out, we step. We find our guideline. I've already cut one side, so I'm going to find that guideline from the side, and I'm going to cut it. We're going to section that top part out of the way and comb. So basically the top of my hand, the top of my palm is reaching the roof. If my fingers are reaching the wall, so you could In fact, use objects around you to think of that balance, of that squareness of the wall, the ceiling, using everything around you, the objects, to make sure you have good balance. So again, comb in, fingers in, and step. And every time I'm cutting, I'm making sure that vertical shape is straight through my body, straight through the middle. So I have good balance within my elbows. I can see it very nicely. I'm keeping my back nice and straight as I cut. Next section, you'll see where you might come up. Right. So I take that away. Now what we need to do is, because the head is starting to round, we want to fill that gap. So what we have to do is build that weight and length as the head rounds. That is a square shape, creating more length and weight as the head rounds. So how are we going to do this? Well, what we're going to do is each section, very simply, is going to over-direct to our previous section. That is going to create more weight and length as the head rounds. So if you come on over, I'll just show you a slight demonstration. So basically, if we look at our guideline coming straight out from the head, and then we have our new guideline, well, our new hair that we need to cut, it's going to come straight out, but it's going to over-direct to that previous. So this one is straight out, the left, the right is over-directing to that previous guideline. So that's creating more weight and length as the head rounds. So we need to see this when we elevate the hair straight out from the head. So I'm just going to place in. I'm coming towards me now, fingers go nice and tight. I step. I look at my elevation, my over direction. I'm going to cut straight out, keeping my back nice and straight. I'm going to take that away, clip that away, and then work further below. Coming towards me, fingers go into the root, and pull, and slightly step, over directing to the previous guideline below. As I come from below, now Josh's hair is already quite short at the bottom, so that doesn't matter. It just means that it's not about what I take off, it's about what I leave and what shape I'm building as I'm creating that haircut, okay? So again, make sure the hair is nice and wet. Using the wide part of my tooth comb to make sure I'm sectioning. Now, if somebody was really fine, was very fine, then I would probably use the thinner side of my comb. So using that as your compass, which side of your comb you want to use to section nice and neat. Do you know what, on a doll's head, I always use the fine side, just to compact the hair a lot better as I clean my sections. So starting from the top, comb goes in, I step, I think about my elevation, think about the palm of my hand hitting the top of the ceiling, fingers towards the wall, and then cutting straight up and checking my over direction before I cut. So this is actually, you know, it may look a little bit easy, but it's actually a lot to think about. And believe me, when somebody is over your shoulder teaching this, it's a lot more beneficial. But hopefully from today, if you don't know this technique, then you can practice and practice and get somewhere with it. Because believe me, once you do have good control of that elevation, that straight line coming down, it's a really nice technique for that more precision. Okay, so if you were in a barber chair, and it was quite a high barber chair, it doesn't go low, you know, they are quite high, and that's probably quite a hard technique. So, you know, a lot of time we would come within our fingers, okay, cut within our fingers because the chair's so high. But if we're going within our fingers, our elbow's lower, and that could resort to more of a graduation of a shape, which we don't want to do. We want to be more of a layer. technique. So if we were going to do that, then what we're going to have to do, starting from the top, is use our scissors in the opposite grip. So putting our thumb in the opposite grip. Because if we were like this, I'm crooked, you can see my back. I don't know where to stand right. I'm looking over. I don't have great balance from my sight of my elevation, my over direction. I'm off balance. I could, end up rounding the shape or something. So if you were going to do it, then use that technique of using the opposite grip. And also with your elbow to the side of your hip. Watch my elbow touches my hip. The elevation goes higher. Okay, so if you do have to result in this cutting technique from using inside your fingers, just beware and just think about it. Think about your elevation, tucking that elbow to your hip so you can be more precise. From looking this way, you do have much more greater control of looking at that over direction. So you are going to be more perfect at the over direction, but not necessarily the elevation. Not much needed to come off there in that corner, but it was enough for it to come out square. So we're just going to cross check now, basically. What I like to do with cross check, use my finger and then use it as a saw underneath. So using the teeth of my comb, sliding it in, twist and pull. Then we can check our square shape, and then we can only brush off minimal amount. Any more than a few millimeter, then we have to revert more into that vertical cutting shape, okay? And there's literally, don't really need to brush anything off. Or we can use our finger, holding our thumb, let go underneath. Okay, so now we're coming to the corner. We need to fill this corner within the weight. So what we're going to do, we're going to utilize some of that guideline from the back. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually over direct forward. So we're going to push that more length towards the back, pushing it more forward. So it's going to become shorter as we move forward, which is going to be more on this angle. So it's shorter here to longer at the back on that horizontal basis. Now, if I just come straight on and focus on the top of the head first, fingers go into the scalp and we pull and step, but remember the over direction forward. We do go a bit higher there. So, and up. Taking away that guide length and going underneath and push forward. So a little bit off there. And we're going to have this section at the back. Once you come better, you won't need to use so many clips. It will come more fluent, more easily for you. Like that. So going goes in, fingers go in. I push and step, and I check my over direction forward, checking my guideline, and we cut vertically. And again, vertically. And cross check, just to check that square towards the back, and look at that, you can see that nice and square towards the back. And if you come on over here, so we're filling in this corner at the back, nice and square. See, just brushing off those ends, but it's getting longer towards the back, shorter towards the front. Now, as we're coming towards the ear now, the head is no longer rounding so much. so it rounds at the front. But I'm going to actually change my technique now because of the length of Joshua's hair now. We're going to change the cutting shape very slightly to a more triangular layer. So what this does now, just going to utilize some of my guideline from the previous section. Clip that out of the way. Clip this out of the way. So I'm going to push the hair forward. As I push the head forward and step, I see my guideline. I'm going to pivot my fingers slightly up, just very slightly. So it's starting to disconnect now. So that means that I'm creating more length at the bottom. The density of the hair has changed at the top of the ear here. So getting more length at the bottom, but I'm taking away length, weight towards the top. So creating pressure more downwards. Utilize my guide for my new section. So tricky with these masks. Yeah, buddy, how's that? Perfect. So, standing towards the back of the head, fingers go in, and I push, and I over direct forward. I'm making sure I'm seeing this route travel to my new guide. Then I pivot my fingers up slightly. Which is going to extend that more length and weight towards the back. So triangle shape gives that direction of weight and length where you want it. So that's a good thing about triangle layers or triangle graduation, wherever. If it directs weight and length where you want it. Now, because I'm pushing it forward, that means that the hair forward is going to be the shortest point towards the front of the head. Then it's going to be getting longer towards the back. Now, it's not so much of the shape that I want to see. It's more of the characteristics of what that does. So shorter to longer. So that means when he dries his hair, we should always know that shorter hair is stronger. It's going to push that longer hair back. We go straight on now. Check that again. Direct forward. Just a little bit more brushed off. So what that does, is making the shorter hair more stiffer, more stronger. As you can see now from horizontally, it's slightly shorter towards the front, pushing longer towards the back. So more of this angle towards the front, and then square towards the back, and square towards the back, right at the back. So this is creating more stiffness with the shorter hair, pushing the longer hair coming back. This is going to help your styling, but also it's going to, what I found with my hair as it was growing out, that I wanted to be more slimmer. I had quite a lot of hair inside, same as Josh. So when it's growing out, it becomes a bit more mushroomy within this contour area here. So I wanted to slim the density in this area, make more of a slimmer shape. But I love the length at the bottom. I love to tuck it behind my ear and showing off this bit more length, showing that I had a more longer length, but more slimmer, leaner towards the sides. So I'm just going to cross-check that, make sure. Now make sure, because it's a triangular shape now, you need to cross-check the very fine sections because it's getting shorter to longer, longer to shorter, sorry. Lovely. Right. Take that away. Now we're going to work from the top. We're going to utilize the guideline from the back again towards the front, towards the top. So clipping this out of the way. Again, making sure all the hair is quite wet and damp. Now Josh has nice movement within his hair. So creating more of a layering technique is going to entice that movement within his hair, which is going to be really nice. So I can blow dry it smooth and straightish, but still it gives that movement within the hair. So as you can see, putting the comb on top of the head, it's rounding from here to here. So this means I need to make more weight and length towards the back and towards the front. So over direction, square shape, more weight and length in the corners. So over direction to our previous guide. So we're going to use that previous guideline and we're going to push forward and we're going to cut square towards the top. So again, fingers in and up, pushing forward towards the top. Palm to backhand. We're going to check corner at the back. Yep, hair is starting to fall down, but that's good, that's fine. So we're going to half that section now. Can you still see Felix? Using my fingers to make sure I'm not combing into the previous. I'm using my comb now. Look, I'm using the back of my comb as my thumb to create pressure to push the hair away from me. That's my gather. It's pushing away from me. And we go. So again, using my guideline, it's still rounding, so I'm still going to over direct towards the front. And until it stops rounding, then we're going to go that one, probably that one section on base. So if we're high in the barber chair, then we can change our grip of our scissors to using the thumb on the side of the ring. So we can either do palm to backhand, or if we're too high and we're twisting the wrist, then we can revert to more of that, using your thumb right on the side of the whole finger, right here. This is going to create more sturdy, straight, but obviously I'm not bending my wrist. So I'm on base now, straight up. As you can see, straight up. So if I was coming palm to backhand, obviously my wrist is quite bent. So if I just go from, twist my wrist around my thumb, just on the outer side of the scissor, then I can work a lot more comfortably. Check that corner, nice and square, just that little bit off there. Checking over direction. Now it's just starting to round slightly, so think about your over direction. If I just come towards you, you might be able to see a little bit better. So I'm going to over direct back now. So I was over directing forward, now I'm going to over direct back because the head is rounding away from me. So making sure I check my over direction from the side, checking the root area, and we cut. Isolate that, take that away, now piece of our guideline, then over direct again, backwards. See our guideline, and try not to hit your guideline. Well, try not to cut your guideline. The aim is to try and aim and hit your guideline, okay? So now we have that more square shape towards the rounding of the head, as you can see. elevating that up. You can see that was more square, more longer towards the front, shorter towards the middle. So vertically towards the top is more of that square shape. So now we're just going to blow dry. I've already cut the other side. Well, we can cross-check it, of course, which I just showed you, which I don't really need to brush any off. It's all pretty good. Yeah, fine. Now, we don't have time so much in the shop to, you know, put product in it, blow dry it, cross-check it, chip in, sorry, to add texture. Because we created more of a blunt cut, more club cut, we've given that weight in the ends, but we created that more structure, that strong structure, so we know the shape is good. So what we can do now is actually cross-check and start chipping in. So what I'm going to do, thumb, then finger, comb down, place the comb within, then comb out, and we're just going to softly chip in. We're going to place his head a little bit further back to make sure we're elevating high enough. So, thumb, finger, comb down, place the comb in, let go, twist, pull. Pull out, and then cross-check, but chip in. So we're going to go throughout the haircut like this. So chipping in. So I can do this straight away. I'm not going on the side. I'm coming quite vertically. So I'm only softening those ends. I don't want to disturb the shape. Through the top now, I'm going to go for it, elevating up, and we're just going to chip it. Keep my other direction just in case, and just chip in slightly. So nice and clean, make sure you're pushing that hair out of the way. I'm using my hand so I don't comb into that previous already cut area. I'm going to go for the sides now, comb from underneath, twist, pull. Even though it doesn't look much, it honestly changes so much. Just softening in. You've got to think about the hair. All these hairs, basically, if they're blunt cut and each section comes together, it's quite solid and weighty. But if it collapses better, but also if you want to lift and create movement, it moves better. So that's important. Most of my cuts really, I always soften afterwards, mostly when it's dry, but we want to add product to Joshua's hair. And I don't want to chip in after product. So what we're going to do, we have this overhang of longer length. What I'm going to do is diagonal forward. I'm just going to check it, coming straight down horizontally. And I'm going to chip in, but on a diagonal, and look at my balancing of my finger and my scissor. Balancing the bottom blade onto my scissors. These are Keto scissors. They're great scissors. I really love their scissors. If anybody doesn't know and knows of the brand, check them out. They're great. So combing the hair straight down. And I'm just going to point cut and take away the very edge. Nice. finger underneath, comb underneath, let go, twist and pull. So that's a good tip for cross-checking nice and neatly instead of taking massive sections where it could ruin your shape. Okay, so we're going to blow dry his hair. Now, how I like to blow dry and style hair within the shop, which I always say when I educate also, is using products, you know. What I like to do is prep, style, and finish. So free products, that's free products that you could actually sell to your clientele, free opportunities to sell a product rather than just the one. So what we're going to do is, actually I'm going to use something not in the 1922 range, but is in the Cume range. This is a Keratin Smooth Silkening polish. It smooths out the hair. His hair's quite dry. So I'm going to use a small amount of this, if you haven't seen that. I use this on so many of my men's hair just to smooth out the blow dry a little bit, to relax the hair, smooth out the cuticle to give that more natural shine within the hair. Now with the perimeter of his hairline, probably longer towards the middle. So I'm just going to pull down, creating my elevation nice and low. And I'm just going to take a bit off the length. But using this razor, it's going to make it nice and raggedy towards the end, more of that lived-in feel. Towards a little bit higher, I'm just going to tease in, just very slightly, test that movement at the bottom. So I'm just going to check the hairline. His hair, like I said, was already quite short around the perimeter, so there shouldn't be too much. We want to keep a lot of this length. Just want to brush those ends off a little bit. So what I like about the shape as well, when I found in lockdown, is I really like this length, but not so much the weight at the bottom or the weight in here. So now I'm just teasing through, taking a little bit of the length, the weight at the bottom, just very slightly, especially here, not so much around the back, just teasing it through just to give that more texture slightly. Move on so you can see it. So just brushing the ends, getting rid of those ends slightly, and then I'm just going to tease it through, so taking a little bit of the weight out of the ends, but so I can have a bit more free-flowing bits around the perimeter, and we can tuck that in towards the sides. So I'm going to use a little bit of 1922, which is through with a little bit of Premier paste. Just to help smooth the hair out also, but giving that little bit of grip structure towards the hair. Okay, so now I'm going to blow dry. I'm just going to smooth the hair nicely back. So like I said, the shorter hair is pushing the longer hair back. For our graduation, or for our layering technique of the square layer within twice movement, we've reduced the weight within. So that's working with mostly all the internal stuff. I'm trying to make it relaxed, looking at the root area, pushing left and right, using a medium heat. I want to add volume.
If I directing upwards, I probably add a little bit of volume. That would add volume. So try and make it nice and natural. How we do the time, is it?
37 minutes.
Oh, no. There's a deep breath in the throat, relaxing the root hair, certainly relaxed state of the hair, but smoothing our hair out slowly. So using our breath brush just to smooth out now, bowing it around a little bit. And pushing the hair to that direction that I want. Now every client I always teach them, especially in the new hairstyle, teach them how to blow dry their hair. So I told them what to prep with their hair, why it's important, and what it's going to do. Also showing them how to blow dry. A lot more men are starting to blow dry their hair nicely now, which is putting that more effort in, which is really nice to see. That's what we enjoy doing. You know, it's enjoying the process of the prepping, but also the last result of seeing what we've created. You know, that fulfillment, you know, fulfilled, satisfied with what we have created. So it's really nice to see that, you know, the client is putting in that effort. He wants to look good because he's going to feel good. So keep moving out, keep going with the movement of the hair, keep fighting that movement. You used to have really short hair, didn't you, Josh? Yeah. Now you're embracing the longer hair for a while now, isn't it? Yeah. Before lockdown, in fact, isn't it? So guys, also, we'll be putting some online tutorials soon on my website. If you want to check it out, jamesbeaumont.co, not .com, and subscribe. I'll be having some tutorials on there. And like I said, you know, visually you can be taught, but not as much as having somebody looking over your shoulder and directing you all the way, giving you the knowledge. I hope you've enjoyed the knowledge that I've given you today, and it will inspire you to keep knowing, keep searching for information, do the best you can be to give your clients to get that, most importantly, client retention, get money. Be happy customers, and turning back. Now I'm just going to resort to my round wire part brush. Now this has the tiny bristles within it also, just to help smooth the hair out again. So back and then back onto the neck, smoothing the hair out. Now watch, I'm pushing the airflow, pull it down a bit, within the brush. This area here, push down, no volume, push down and then smooth onto the end. So many of my clients have this round, not this specific round brush, but they have round brushes now. That's crazy now, you know, from years ago, it definitely didn't have. So pushing before and then smoothing the end. The other side. And what I love about it as well is expanding these corners out, so when you look at them straight on, it gives that more slightly honesty feel, which is a good vibe at the moment, trending. It's giving that more flair towards the corners coming out. But then we have this more slimlining towards the sides. We have this weight on top and it can be relaxed and fall over. No problem. So no, it looks long visually from the side, so it impacted in, which is really nice. So we're just going to take some more weight out. Even though the layering process does take weight out, but still got a lower hair. So I don't say no to finishes, it's just how you use them. So like I said, around the perimeter, I want slightly longer length. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave my bottom blade, come out, 2 teeth closed, come in 2 teeth, come out 2 teeth. So basically, think about your finishes. If I was going to go every section and thin out, then what's that going to do? It's going to be the same density, obviously smaller density, but it's all going to be even throughout. When really I can just be regimented with where I want that weight taking out, which is going to give balance on each side, give balance to knowing where that weight needs to go. Let's check this side. So again, I'm going to weave the bottom blade. It become nice and close now, just for people to see if they're wondering about this. Is going to weave the bottom blade. We're going to push 2 teeth, pull in, push 2 teeth, pull out, push teeth. So it's not like a harsh line as you would with your texturizer or thinners, okay? Now you can see this movement flowing upwards, but also it compresses within inside the head. We're going to go towards the back just to take out that little bit more weight towards the back. It's looking beautiful. Just going to go in full blade, just in some areas, but we don't want to take massive sections. And I'm going to cut as I pull out. So that's important, not just a specific straight line.
So I really, you know, don't like just seeing people that take massive sections, pull straight out. It's having that, you know, natural. We don't naturally see a severe weight line that's taken out. So I don't want to take too much off really around the crown because I want the weight to keep it nice and flat. I don't want to expose expansion towards that crown area. But if you just check from the back there, if you come down a little bit, feel it, so you can see the shape that we've created, making that more streamlined within the sides, having that flare towards the back. But, you know, it doesn't look massively creative. It's just created with a natural look. Thinking about the shapes that we are creating. So I've prepped it, I've gone through it. We can chip into it slightly. I've done it when it was wet, remember. We could do it also a bit more to compress it a little bit more if we're going to chip in when it's dry. Let's just check it over. That looks good, I like it. So now we're going to use the styling aid. So what I'm going to use is the matte, slight bit of matte measure, which is a creamy base, as you can see. Matte measure from 1922, which is going to keep it matte, as it says on the name. We're going to emulsify it through to the hands. We're going to keep rubbing until it starts to dry within our hands. And just let it set for a second. Then we're going to brush through to the sides, smoothing the ends. So this cream enables it to coat the hair through the mid-lengths and the ends. So we're going to push this through. Needs a little bit more lift towards the front actually. I'm going to take a tiny bit of weight towards the front. Just by using that weave technique. This can entice a bit of volume in an area. It's almost like a little backcombing technique in a way. Mask come down. Yeah. Stop it. Yeah, 1 second, buddy. Now, one more product, Tinted Dust. This is a great product. It's quite dry and matte. It's just put in powder, has a precision pump towards the back. So you can really aim where you want to achieve it, and that's going to help a little bit of lift. It's tinted, so it gives depth. If somebody's quite fine, lost density in the area, then it's going to help make it look fuller in that area. And now finish with the last product, if men want to, you know, sometimes really with a more sculptured shape, you'd use a hairspray. So what we're going to do, because we're styling now, we're just going to entice So this is called high impact hairspray from Keratin. Here's the bottom. What I liked about it when it was growing out also is the length there. You can tuck behind the ear. Once it's tucked behind the ear, obviously the angle of the perimeter line you can see increases here, taking the weight at the top through to the triangular layer. So it's really slimmed it down. So if it was thick and we've tucked it behind, you get this wedge of hair thickness. Whereas taking away that layer, taking away that weight, you haven't so. It comes more even up. So, you know, there's 3 products to try on the gentleman. Which I'm sure he's going to love all 3. 3 chances. So as you can see, we have this beautiful layering through the sides, flowing backwards without graduation, more of the layering process instead. We have this length towards the corners of the back. We have length towards the top and corners from either side. So if we're looking at the back, we're over directing to our previous guideline, which makes a horizontal square shape, vertical square shape, creating more length and weight where the head rounds. So in the corner here. So when we do come to the sides, rubbing this bit out from the ear. Well, it's not going, but oh well. We've created it that's slightly shorter towards the front. That's going to push longer hair towards the back. Over directing from a top view, as you can see, over directing to your previous section, that's going to elongate the weight. From the sides, as you can see, it's a triangular, so short at the top to long at the bottom, giving that weight, that length at the bottom to tuck behind the ear towards the top. So remember all those techniques, guys. Remember to rewind, keep remembering about what I'm talking about, to take the opportunity to really absorb the knowledge. And that's not just for me, that's for all the educators that are on this 24-hour program from the Barber's Arms. I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Remember, you can catch me on the website of jamesbeaumont.co if you would like some one-to-one education, or also some tutorials that are going to go on very soon. Thank you all very, very much. Hope you enjoyed it. And Josh, hope you enjoyed that cut. So let's take that weight out. You can see the back there.